Yes.
What's your topic?
This one's a little more in my wheelhouse, I think.
Okay, good. I'm glad you're not picking something that isn't.
Yeah, that would be weird, right? Star Wars.
Okay.
A lot of talk today. Today they talked about. We'll give away when we're filming it, but that they are releasing a canon book after. So expanded universe is no longer canon,
Right.
But they're going to release a book that is canon that will explain what happened between the end of Jedi when the second Death Star was destroyed and the beginning of Force Awakens, Episode 7, which I'm very excited about. I will read that immediately. And because there are already a billion books about what happened after Jedi with Grand Admiral Thrawn and stuff, so I'm interested to see like what ideas, whatever in there.
Gotcha.
But anyway, this brought me to a different idea, which was, and it's a more simple idea, and it can be for all 6 movies. We won't limit it only to the the good movies. The protagonists, right? So you have Han, Luke, Leia, Obi-Wan, Chewie, Yoda, Lando, 3PO, R2, Anakin. That's probably all of them, right?
No, does Watto not make the cut?
No, Watto definitely doesn't.
Did you say Darth Vader?
Yeah, well, Anakin.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, Anakin.
So that would be, I think, pretty much everyone you would consider like maybe a protagonist at some point in some of them turn into antagonists.
Queen Amidala.
Yeah, Amidala would be one,
Qui-Gon Jinn.
and Qui-Gon would be another one. That's true.
And did you say Quado?
Watto.
Watto? Yeah, that's the horrible anti-Semitic, like...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're not thinking of Shylock or Fagin when we made this character. No, please, don't look over here.
I was good that your mother wasn't there.
But so I was just basically curious. Out of all the protagonists in the trilogy and the shitty Star Wars movies, which one would you want to be, and why would you want to be that? Now we were talking beforehand about this, and Adam brought up a good point that it would be everyone would probably say Han, and
I just changed my mind after I said that. I was like, no, there's someone I would rather be.
But I don't actually really even know the answer. I'm just curious, like what you guys think, like what comes to mind first out of these particular characters, who you'd want to be, and why would you want to be that character?
Podcaster announcer.
Pod racer announcer.
Whatever.
Not the podcaster.
You are a
That's what
podcaster
you
announcer.
Okay, that's good. Well, that's
He's
why
not a
are you
protagonist.
talking about the guy
Okay.
with the 2 heads?
Yeah. He looks like a mutated earthworm Jim.
The wide sports guy. Wow, that's fantastic.
That's him.
Nailed it. You're already there.
Thanks.
You've surpassed yourself.
Okay.
I don't know. My gut instinct says Han, but Han. When you start unpacking Han, his life kind of sucked. Like he's kind of living with his pet. He's got his ship.
They have a
He
life
just
debt. That's not-
smuggles
I
stuff.
wouldn't call him a pet.
Well, you know what I mean. Like you look at other lives, and Han is kind of self-destructive in a little ways. Like I never read
He's a
any of
Humphrey
the
Bogart character. I mean, they kind of tore him out of Casablanca.
He is very tormented. He's
Yeah.
he's the sort of I guess not anti-hero, but he's the dark horse. He's cool. He got Leia, but at the same time, like
banging Princess Leia. How's
yeah,
the cool ship?
I don't know. I mean,
How's the
I
best
don't know where
friend?
his life. If it weren't for the books and the expanded universe, I would have been like, that relationship's not going to last because he's the kind of guy that self-destructs. He takes everything that he had and just destroys it so he can move on and do other stuff.
That's what his earlier years were for. Leia set him straight.
Did
Because
Leia set him
Leia
straight?
was a strong character.
Yeah.
Yeah. I relate to Leia. I'd be Leia.
Now, are we talking, Colin?
You just look in the mirror the whole time.
Before I give you my
You
next
just look at
answer,
yourself in the mirror all the
Yeah,
time.
I would.
I need some guidance from you.
Yes.
Now, in the old, I always wanted a lightsaber, which meant I had to be a Jedi.
Right.
Which meant you have to back into this, right? You start with a lightsaber. You're like, I want to be able to use the Force and have a lightsaber. Mostly
What's
just
your
lightsaber.
midi-chlorian count?
Over 50.
Okay.
Wait, is it like ACT or SATs?
I think it's
really suck, and the other one's really good.
but the part of the Jedi lore that I could never get behind, pun intended, was the fact that they weren't supposed to have relationships, which basically meant that they were priests. They weren't really supposed to have sexual relations, right?
Which is
they
why
got
everyone
a
thought it was a
lightsaber.
religious order until they ruined that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on.
So I was always conflicted because I was like, I want the personality of Han and the cavalier nature of Han and the freedom that Han enjoyed, but I want the cool powers that Luke has.
So you want to be Anakin?
Yeah, but then I guess
But the sand's going to get everywhere.
the sand, its course, flows between your hands and gets in your vagina.
My God.
That was the they rewrote that line actually on the side.
They're like,
You're looking at a special.
They're like,
Rough
George, well, I
vaginas.
don't know if you want to talk about Queen Amidala's vagina at this particular juncture of the movie.
Have you read that book by Carrie Fisher when she was talking about shooting Star Wars?
no.
And she's like, why don't I have a bra? And Luke says, there's no bras in space. And she's like, what the fuck? Really, that sequence in her book, I think it's Wishful Drinking.
Oh,
It's just,
awesome.
It is so funny.
I actually should read that. I love reading all those old biographies from people that like just are
It's
now
also-
so far
it's-
gone they
it's-
tell the
it's
truth.
done in her voice.
Yeah.
So you can just hear, yeah.
Her one woman show is really good, by the way. Too.
Is it?
Yeah, really, really funny.
So going back to the lightsabers, so there's the colors, right? There's blue, green, red, and then the purple for.
I want to change my answer and be Mace Windu.
Mace Windu.
Mace Windu is not a protagonist. I'm talking about the major
R2.
Yeah, you're right. You want to be R2? You'd be an astromech droid, I guess. I'm talking specifically about the core characters because I want to be Boba Fett. But I'm not. But he's not. But he's not
core. He wasn't core character.
No.
I want to be Lando. Because he's cool, but he's a pragmatist.
Yeah, he's
I like the fact that he gets to do a cool thing in a cool universe,
right?
But the threat is not as ever present on him.
Yeah, he really didn't have too much responsibility.
Hold on. I want some water to run off my back. I'll do a little bit of trading here.
Yeah,
and he looks good. He's got gold inlay on his cape.
Oh.
And he's got
Let's start with that.
And he's got Lobot with him.
Yeah. His personal secretary / sex slave.
Lobot. I thought the Ugnaughts were his.
Who's the guy that had the built-in headphones?
Yeah, Lobot's the one.
Yeah, you could tell that.
The Ugnaughts are those little horrible 400-year-old looking creatures that are like taking apart 3PO in the basement of Bespin.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of wicked shit if you start thinking about it in Star Wars. But yeah, I can get behind Lando. Here's why. He's like, the hardest thing he had to do the whole time was someone called him up, was like, hey, can you fly the Millennium Falcon real quick for me? He's like, all right. The rest of the time, he just coasted, man. Look, he was just chilling.
Let's be honest. He shows up quite awkwardly at the beginning of Jedi.
Well, he's dressed up as a guard.
That is, he's dressed up as a guard. I'm thinking about when they're on the floating platforms. Is he still dressed up as a guard at that point? Yeah. Then he just kind of
as a skiff guard. Yeah,
he redeems himself, and then he's just gone.
Mm-hmm. And then he finds himself in the Falcon. Yeah. Which made sense because it was his ship.
Yeah.
But he
wasn't, I mean, come on. Han's the better pilot. We all know this.
Yeah, but Han was on the ground.
Right, which made no sense. Why the hell was Han
leading a ground attack? Money. I mean, that's the difference. I think in my fantasy life, I would like to be able to handle my finances better. Hence, I want to be Lando.
You want to be Lando. And that's to my point. Han was not good at a lot of things. He was clearly not good at money management. Oh, Jabba the Hutt, a lot of money. For what reason? Well, because he had to dump the cargo, right? He had some shipment that he was running for.
Yeah, it was the drugs or something.
So he's not a good guy. I mean, he's like the modern day equivalent to like a cocaine cowboy. Like he's trying to get all this cocaine into Miami, and he's you miss one load, you're dead.
Yeah, but
Escobar's good life. Yeah, and Escobar's pissed, and then you're like, well, now there's no place I can hide. Escobar owns everything.
But that was the whole idea of Han's character. I think was that like he ran into some old man that he thought he was going to take advantage of him Mos Eisley, and then it ended up being that he got sucked into this whole thing,
right?
Like where he actually started to care about them.
And you know what? Actually, this discussion, this is what made the initial 3 movies so good. Is that yes, there was this grand, big, epic narrative, but there was this far more interesting, down to earth, with the criminality and everything like that. That really kind of kept the characters going. Mm-hmm. Whereas like you look at the more recent 3, and it's like everyone just seems so small and just this kind of a caricature against this kind of big, obvious background.
Well, it's true. They weren't as dimensional, right? They were one note. Like now thinking about it, that's interesting. I've actually up until this point never actually started thinking about the psyche or the flaws of the characters in Star Wars before. You've got the farm boy who grows up innocent and then has the loss of innocence as he has to reconcile the fact that his father is like a mass murderer. And then you've got Han, who is basically, for all intents and purposes, a criminal. He's a smuggler and a criminal and not a very good guy, who then has to come to terms with the fact that...
And Obi-Wan's just a fanatic.
And Obi-Wan's some sort of like crazy religious fanatic, right? That's... There's a lot of that.
But then, when you look at the original 3, I mean, the idea of the rise and fall, it's like, that story's been done quite a bit, Paradise Lost. I mean, you think of all of those, that it didn't have that kind of sub-story that was more original, that could bring out characters. Because I've always blamed just like, he wrote crappy characters in 1 through 3, but it really could be like, he gave no space for characters to emerge, because what he was doing was just so sort of mythological and epic, that it's a story that sounds better being told after the fact than actually watching it happen and play out in front of you.
Well, that was the thing. I don't know if it was Red Letter Media or another guy was. I think it might have been another guy that was critiquing the prequels, where he was saying like the problem with those movies is that there's no main character. Like if you really think about it, like who is it about? The arc is ultimately about Anakin, but like what is it really about? Because you think the first movie is actually about Qui-Gon. Like there's a lot about Qui, and then they just kill him, and then the second movie is about.
God knows what.
Like I don't even know, and then the third movie it becomes more about Anakin, but it's like who is the main character? Because in A New Hope, it's really about Luke and Obi-Wan. And in the second movie, it's about like, well, it's Amidala and Anakin and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and Darth Maul and the Emperor, or at the time Senator. And it's like, who is this about?
Yeah.
And I think that was like the huge, I think one of the major problems that I never really even reconciled in my own head was like, there's a major problem with the structure of the movie.
Well,
like,
also,
not even
it's-
like
no, it's
Where do I care?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Is this caring time? Is this caring time?
But also, it's one of the hardest things to do is write a character that is your protagonist that becomes the antagonist in a different story. That's not easy. Very few people can do that. In fact, the only person I can really think of that's really great at doing that is Martin, George R.R. Martin, like where he'll write a character that starts so innocent and so amazing and turn them into a wicked human being, but you sympathize and you find that thing in you that would have done the exact same thing. That's what he needed to do with Anakin, and that fell so far short that it left you thinking, I mean, it's a flip of a switch. He's evil.
If Vince
like, what the
Gilligan
shit was
had
that?
written episodes 1 through 3,
That's
we
not-
might have
I'm sorry.
had something very,
That's
very
another
interesting. Yeah.
great example of it, right? Where Walter White, where you're like,
Pete's on the roof of
he
the Death
started off this character started off with great intentions, and then we follow him into this downward spiral. You know, the road to hell is paved with good
Right,
intentions,
right.
and that's where he started going. And we never got that with Anakin. Anakin just literally flips a switch, and that's it. He had a bad dream, and in order not to have that dream become reality, I have to commit mass genocide of all of the Jedis, including the little kids, the young Padawans.
Well, things happen. His mom dies.
Yeah, now what?
She was a slave for. I mean, like, and then she didn't even get killed by the Jedis. She was killed by sand people.
Yeah. So
It didn't make
I'm
no
sorry,
sense.
Tusken Raiders.
Sorry, Tuscan.
Racism.
No, but I.
Jesus Christ.
That's a slur where they're from in space. Sand
Tatooine?
people. I'm sorry. The S people word you're using. I can't
Oh
believe it.
wow. Okay.
I think that anyway. So I think that there's a lack of focus that like pretty much precludes all of the characters, because they even ruin Obi-Wan in those, and ruin Obi-Wan in actually the prequel in the trilogy because of how fucking awful he is in the prequels. The problem is that I'm a little conflicted on it too, because I'd like to be Han Solo. I always wanted to be Han Solo. He's an awesome character, and he's a character that really comes around, which I think is really interesting. Luke is a little too whiny for me, but Luke shows a lot of mettle and courage at the end of Empire, and in the beginning of Jedi, when he walks into Jabba's palace, is the single most badass moment in any of the Star Wars movies, hands down. Like where he like tricks Bib Fortuna and the Gamorrean guards and like gets in the Jedi, and he's just fucking there. And he like makes makes no bones about it.
No.
Like he doesn't try to hide himself or anything like that. He just walks in. And like that is like, and like really when you think about that moment, it's like, holy shit, this is fucking awesome.
And then he does that really clever thing where he then tries to be as badass with Jabba, and Jabba's like, no. Come on.
Yeah.
I am not going to be this big and sloppy looking and so successful if you can pull that stunt on me. But it just, there was that kind of care and attention, because if he was completely badass in the beginning, then the conflict that happens at the end with the Emperor would be like, well, hold on, why did it transition? It was at least getting you ready that he still wasn't at full potential.
But see, that was why those movies were so good. They had those layers, right? Think about what he was wearing in that scene. He wasn't wearing the traditional robes. He came in mirroring what his dad was wearing, and he came in with ego, and he came in with, I'm a badass. You have to do what I tell you to do. And that was so fucking rad, because even when you're watching these, you're like, you get that sort of sense like he might actually turn toward the dark side because he's got that in him. He's got this sense of like arrogance.
He's getting off on
yeah,
this.
he's getting off on it a little bit. And I might be over sensualizing it, but that was a smart choice on the costumer's perspective. When he walks in, what is he wearing? Or the screenwriter's perspective, whoever put that in, he's wearing all black, just like Vader, just like the Senator, just like the Empire, just like all those callbacks. And it's foreshadowing. It's brilliant, man. Also, like a boss taking down that Rancor. Just like a boss, right?
Yeah, he gets captured intentionally too, which is funny because they really could have sprung the trap at that time.
Yeah,
that's another thing that like Lando was there and Leia was already in there, so like they could have actually caused some ruckus there in the beginning. Yeah. And they really don't. They wait. It's like it's so funny like how like I don't know it's not complicated at all really when it comes down to it. Like the story with Boba Fett delivering Han to Jabba and order to appease the Empire and stuff like that's a pretty succinct story, and you actually lose sight of that from the very beginning of Episode 1. And again, like the guys on the internet are always making fun of this, where it's like it's about a trade embargo and politics. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like I remember like, in the beginning, going, oh, this is interesting, I guess. But when you really think about this storyline, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, why is this so complicated? That's why I always say about why they killed Darth Maul. By not killing Darth Maul until the third movie, which is what they should have done, they could have skipped like half of what happened in the rest of the series. Because Anakin should have fought Darth Maul in the third movie.
Anakin should have killed Darth Maul,
Yeah, exactly.
and that should have been him finally coming to power, right?
But
he should have done what his son didn't do, and he should have killed him.
It's so weird. Like the whole story is complicated for no reason. It's not simple. Like the story, the trilogy story is simple. It's really actually deceivingly simple.
Oh yeah.
And Boba Fett is probably the biggest wrench in all of it, and even that makes sense. And then when you go back and really like tell me what the prequels are about. Like walk to anyone up and be like, what the fuck happened in this movie? there's some sea people, and there's a planet called Naboo that's being embargoed.
Who has a
and
queen,
there's
who has a queen that they
blockade,
elected.
a trade blockade.
I move for a vote of no confidence in the Chancellor.
And there's a senator who's clearly Emperor Palpatine. And a dude with red face paint.
Who is so powerful, the Senator. The most powerful Sith Lord that's like ever walked the earth that no one knows. Like Yoda will just be talking to him, not have one inkling that this guy is a bad
Maul's
guy.
really the only one that knows. And his little weird guards with the Russian looking
the
hats.
Red Guards or whatever they were.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, those guys were
because
dead.
they're in Jedi as well.
Yeah.
I
Those
don't know
they
who
were the Imperial. Not the
Oh yeah,
Imperial
those
Guards.
guys.
Like the emissaries or something.
Yeah, like
They released
They
those
were like
action figures.
his-
Those were like some of the last action figures they ever released in the original Power of the Force
Like the
line.
coolest
Supposedly-
Legos too.
Yeah, those guys were supposedly like his personal guard, and I'm like, why the shit does he need a personal guard? Like, what is it?
And if you
show.
have a personal guard, why does it look like it was designed by David Cronenberg?
Yeah,
It's like
they're completely
Oh, I'm not
impractical.
evil or
They
anything. I
can't
just thought
move their
this was kind
heads.
of cool. Oh, I'm not an evil dude or anything like that. I just have a personal guard that looks like molten penis.
Yeah. And where the hell were they when the Emperor was getting thrown off the friggin' balcony?
Yeah, none of the Imperial, like the red guys that were really cool too with the robes, like were
Yeah.
there. No, like no one was there.
No one was there.
Suddenly everyone's trying to get off the Death Star. I mean, I think that's like.
They're like, I saw this movie. No, really, I saw this movie. It was 2 movies ago. We gotta go.
We're not doing it. Yeah, I know it's too bad. I mean, like I've said before and I've said again. I know it'll never happen. It's a pipe dream, but I really wish that Disney would just be like, hey, those the last 3 movies that came out,
I would love to think
they're
that
done.
too.
They're done. They don't exist anymore. We're gonna go back and we're gonna let J.J. Abrams direct one of them, and all the great
We're
upcoming
gonna let
directors.
this
go out and direct
10-year-old
them.
kid rewrite these movies. Do we know we got a better shot?
I would
with
love.
it?
I
I
would.
mean, keep the same elements too. Keep Darth Maul. Keep Qui-Gon. Just write them as real
Or how about
characters.
who's the guy with the 3 arms and the
General Grievous.
I mean, when
the
I finally
best.
saw episode 3, I was like, where the fuck was this the last, 5 years?
That
Like,
guy was-
that's cool.
That guy was made to make action figures. I was making fun of that guy so bad at the time, and even on our show where I was like, could you think of like Kenner and Hasbro were like, you got to make this character. He's got 4 lightsabers.
Yeah.
And they rotate.
Yeah, we'll sell them independently.
And they're like, oh, that's brilliant.
Every lightsaber
That's
will
a
be
brilliant
$10. Jeez, you have to have all 4.
When I saw, I remember,
easy to
I remember when I saw
Yes.
it. I remember like by the time I remember seeing episode 3 in the theater and basically just being like and shaking my head. Like by the time because people like that one the best. I actually personally think episode 1 is the best of the prequels.
No, dude.
But like,
It's not.
but I remember being in an episode. I was in college and I was just like, I remember just being like, oh my god, what is this? This is getting worse and worse, and I actually think they get worse, and like to the point where I'm like, I don't even give a shit anymore about anything that's happening.
I think it's a fruitless pursuit to decide the degree to which one might be better than the other because I think they're all pretty bad.
Yeah,
But
pretty
I didn't
sure.
even
No,
see-
I think there's a.
I didn't even see 1 and
big
2 in
difference.
the theater. Like the minute I heard what happened after episode 1, like my interest just went out the window. And by 3, I was actually living pretty close to, I was near the Grove in LA, and I didn't have to work full days anymore. I was like, it's 2 in the afternoon. I'll go finally see that movie. And I think it's when Grievous showed up. I was like, I think that's what I used to like about the other movies. There was a sense of fun.
Yeah. I mean, I think they got better. I would disagree with you. I think that the second one was slightly once they stopped mentioning midi-chlorians, I think it got a hell of a lot better. And the third one
Then
actually.
the science was out of it. I didn't like it.
I can't tell if you're kidding anymore.
I'm kidding.
I know.
don't care.
It's
The midichlorian
You
thing
should
was.
save this for the ranking these and debating them is another topic. I
That's
We've
true.
done
That's
that
what-
before.
I think we have done
all
that.
I'll say is the midichlorian thing was like such, and that it is basically the midichlorian thing is the only really one of the only reasons that I want them to cancel the continuity of from those movies because that really does ruin everything about the trilogy in the sense that it really was supposed to it really did feel like a religion. And it's not a religion.
It's supposed to be a spirituality. It was
Yeah.
supposed to be the life force that flows within all of us. And if you can be in touch with that, some are more in touch with that than others. And then you can do cool shit.
Yeah, those people
It's
just have
God.
the midichlorians. Don't worry, Han's gonna explain this in the
But here's what I don't get. And I know
turn on the
George Lucas-
midichlorian tracker.
I know George Lucas.
He explained why he wanted to do it, right? There was an explanation.
No, but there's got to be a producer that was like,
a
no.
cultural shift from the 70s? Because so much about Star Wars fits so perfectly in the 70s.
70s, yes.
And then we're in the early 2000s, and it's like, man, I don't go to Est anymore. Let's come up with midichlorians.
Yeah,
let's explain things away.
No, I just you're spot on with that, right? We didn't need it. Some things you don't need.
Yeah.
You just don't need them.
Well, it was also no one said like, man, I need to believe in Star Wars.
Yeah. No one said this. You know what Star Wars needs more of? Logic.
Science.
Like, it needs more explanation as to how all these... No, that's not what it's
Because
about.
if I needed more explanation, I would have looked for the backstory of every member of the band in the cantina.
Oh, yeah. Well, Colin
like
knows
the
they
blue
are.
guy. I was like, okay, what's his? I mean, I saw him kind of as relation to Zoot in the Muppets. Like, they're both kind of blue.
Yeah.
Well, look, if
I
you
think
want
they both
correlations.
put sax.
if you want more science in your science fiction, go watch Star Trek. That's what that
Read
series
Isaac
is for.
Asimov.
Yeah, or read Isaac Asimov. That's a perfect example. But like, Star Wars is a space saga. I don't need to know everything about it. Just show me some lightsabers and some cool action, and then maybe make me fall in love with Carrie Fisher at a young age and discover my own body.
Oh, nice.
Fun fact: the place where I live in San Francisco, one of the previous tenants was Eddie Fisher.
Really?
I only found this out because I was getting mail from SAG addressed to an Eddie Fisher, and I know SAG rules well enough. You can't have two names. Finally, I went down. I was like, dude, this mail. And the guy's like, yeah, he lived there. He died there. Wow. I'm like, Princess Leia's dad?
That's crazy.
It's just kind of trippy.
Yeah, no, that sounds
Just
trippy.
wanted to share
a
that
little
with
trippy.
you. Yeah.
So to answer your question, Colin, Porkins. Nick,
Yes.
what's your topic?
I gotta find it.
He dies though.
Yeah, I don't want to live in that world.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to live in that. I thought about being Aunt Beru. Just get it over with. I've had a good life on a moisture farm, and it'll burn me to death.
I was on my phone, by the way, looking for because Lucas did explain not too long ago like why he made it, and I actually read it and I was like, that actually makes sense.
I'll
And
look around.
I can't remember
I'll look after it.
what it is.
Well,
Like he
why
said
did
something
he
where
put
I'm like,
that much
oh.
sense in that one aspect of the prequels,
None of
and
the
then
rest.
decided,
Nothing
I'm
else.
done with sense. Because that bit in episode 3, and that's the only movie I think I saw from beginning to end. When Anakin goes to what's her face,
Amidala, yeah.
Amidala.
and he's like, "You look so beautiful tonight." I'm like, "No, she just got out of the dryer. Like her hair is just,
Right.
It's just." And I'm like, they just like everyone just gave up. And it was just,
I like how that's your go-to. It's not that, her giving up the will to live at the end. Because
like
that...
her
No, but it's like
Actually-
they wrote the line "You look so good tonight," which would make you think that somebody on set double checked that there was anything that could be construed as being consistent with Anakin's statement, unless he has gone so far to the dark side. His sense of aesthetics has absolutely come out his own ass. I mean, it's just it is one of the most baffling sequences in cinema.
Colin, I'm actually looking at the quote from why George Lucas said he just wanted to explain the midi-chlorians, and I quote, "Because fuck you."
Oh,
That's what he said.
okay.
apparently.
Fair enough.
In relation to
There was-
midi-chlorians. It's an odd quote
That's
for
a
him to
weird
say,
one.
Greg. I
There
don't
wasn't.
understand why he
There
would-
was. I wish I remember. I can't remember what he said where I read it. And I'm like, oh, it's still dumb, but I guess I understand why you want. It was something. It's something that when you think about it, I was like, oh, okay, well.